Republicans support the idea that Trump has espoused for 20 years, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And there's a big gulf between dropping bombs for one specific purpose, blowing up a nuclear facility, and regime change and nation building. There's a huge gulf. And going in with B-2 bombers is different than boots on the ground.
Yes, it is.
And the president can do something.
Do next? And then what do we do next?
I'll tell you what they won't do next is build a nuclear bomb. And that's the outcome we're trying to get here.
Hello everyone, and welcome to The Second Take, where we tune into CNN so you can skip it. On Saturday, Scott Jennings took a seat on CNN's table for 5 panel. He wasn't shocked in the slightest when the discussion quickly veered into their typical routine, attempting to depict a standard Republican debate as some kind of emotional upheaval. As the panel fretted over GOP discord, Scott Jennings bided his time and then calmly but fiercely called them out. Maybe a tad dramatic, but anyway. Let's dive in and watch Scott Jennings reveal their inconsistency and dismantle their narrative on the spot. Let's get started.
From Israel. Yeah. You were there trying to get out as missiles were coming in. Give us some sense of how you see Trump dealing with this. There are folks saying he blinked and Netanyahu is in charge. There are folks saying, look, this is prudent diplomacy. How do you see it?
Well, first of all, he's been extremely consistent on his views for a very long time. He does not believe Iran should be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. He has said it over and over and over again. And he said this week, I decide what is America First foreign policy, and America First foreign policy is Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. There can be no peace if they have a nuclear weapon. So consistency is number one. Number two, this cannot end at this point, in my opinion, any other way than them losing any ability at all to make a nuclear weapon. And so whether Israel winds up figuring out how to do it, or whether we end up doing it on Donald Trump's order, that's the only way this can end. And I think he knows that at this point. And I think he's taking the amount of time that he needs to figure out the best way to achieve that outcome. You know, there's been a lot of debate on the right about whether we should or we shouldn't, but allowing Iran, which has consistently over 46 years been at war with the United States, chanted death to America, we're the great Satan, Israel's a little Satan. You know, as I was sitting there in Israel watching the missiles fly over my head, I was thinking, I sure am glad they don't have nuclear warheads on them, but that's what they want, and we cannot allow it, and I think the president has been right on this all along.
It should take some time, and it shouldn't be trigger happy. But who is he listening to? I hope it's not Laura Loomer. I hope it's not Tucker Carlson. I hope it's military experts. But he doesn't have a ton of good people around him. He's iced out Tulsi. I hear he's icing out Pete Hegseth. These are his people. He put them there. He's not listening to them. I worry about who he's engaging with.
Collectively, I think you mentioned something, that the 2 weeks. Surprised that there was this pause because he said, everyone evacuate from Tehran, and then suddenly it's a backdown. What do you think caused that?
He didn't say he was doing it in 2 weeks. He said, you know, that's sort of the most time I would give. I mean, he could do it in 2 minutes.
Right.
I mean, you know, for all we know. And they shouldn't know the time or the place that we're going to do it. I guess they'll know the place in this case, but they should know when we're going to go. So I don't fault him for taking in as much information as he can here. Also, you have to remember, he knows more than we do. He knows more than anybody. He has a lot of information we're not privy to. He's also consulting with the Israelis, who have tons of information that we're just not going to be able to discuss here at the table today. I have a lot of confidence, actually, he's going to make a good decision, because he's been so clear-eyed on this for 20 years about the fact that they cannot have this. I actually don't believe it's all that nuanced. We're either going to allow them to have a nuclear bomb or not.
The idea that he's been consistent. Let me just push back a little bit. You're right, he's been consistent on Iran can't have a nuke, but the way he's always defined America first, and you know this as well as I do, you talk to people who voted for him, this is not it. It is not.
I disagree.
Oh, I mean, okay, I'm hearing from lots of MAGA voters. I'm not talking about the Tucker Carlsons and the people representing the MAGA surrogates. I'm talking to Trump voters who are saying this is 100% the opposite of why I voted for him. Foreign adventuring, foreign wars. It's not just we're defending our ally Israel. It's now we're thinking about bombing nuclear sites in Iran. Iran with very bad proxies and bad actors in the region.
I mean, in his first term, we fired cruise missiles into Syria. We took out Qasem Soleimani. I mean, he was not an isolationist. He's for smart engagement, but that doesn't mean no engagement. He was pretty clear on that.
But he got out of the Iran deal with the idea that it would stop them from enriching, and all they did when he got out of the deal was start enriching again. I'm not sure I trust his judgment on how best to deal with this particularly bad actor.
Clearly, the segment was filmed prior to the events, but I'm really curious about your thoughts on the mission. What's your take on the whole Israel-Iran situation? I know where I stand. Though it took me considerable time to be sure about my position on this matter, there's much to consider here, and I'm eager to hear your opinions. Based on everything publicly available, everyone would probably agree that the US strike in Iran was a huge success, the target was demolished, and no American lives were lost. If this mission was necessary, and I believe it was, then it unfolded in the best possible way. While we can't rely on Democrats for much, you'd think that anyone, no matter their politics, would be pleased that Iran's nuclear ambitions just got severely set back, right? Or maybe not, just look at this. You're seeing what I'm seeing, right? While digging around, I stumbled upon this gem from a left-wing creator. I want to be clear, I'm not here to attack anyone personally. That's why I took out the creator's name and channel. They probably have the same opinion about my thumbnails. That said, seriously, come on, I understand the YouTube hustle, navigating between clickbait and real content. I've been accused of it too, and rightfully so. But calling this a failure? No rational person would expect genuine analysis from a title like that. It's turning into a fictional act where success is ignored to make a point, indicating there's no real argument behind it. While I find the situation quite amusing, since, let's be real, it's funny objectively, it also makes me happy. 2 words, job security. Anyway, let's continue. The first clip features Tucker Carlson's interview with Ted Cruz, setting up the context for what they discuss next.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population. At all? No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay. Yeah, how could you not know that? I don't sit around memorizing population tables. Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government. Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant? Because if you don't know anything about the country... I didn't say I don't know anything about the country. What's the ethnic mix of Iran? They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay, it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran. You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government. You're the one who claims anything about the country. No, you don't know anything about the country.
Have to defend it? Absolutely. So this was theater of 2 guys who represent 2 wings of MAGA, and the House is divided now. It feels a little bit like MAGA's getting divorced. These people feel very strongly on this particular issue. They're united around Trump's domestic agenda. On this one thing, they're very, very divided.
Scott, I heard the from you.
The polling on this is quite clear.
But will supporters still support Trump if he chooses action?
Of course they will. I mean, the polling on this, we've explored it on CNN this week, is quite clear. Republicans support the idea that Trump has espoused for 20 years that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. And there's a big gulf between dropping bombs for one specific purpose, blowing up a nuclear facility, and regime change and nation building. There's a huge gulf. And going in with B-2 bombers is different than boots on the ground.
Yes, it is.
And the president can do something.
Do next? And then what do we do next?
I'll tell you what they won't do next is build a nuclear bomb. And that's the outcome we're trying to get here.
We've often been hearing a repeated narrative, especially on CNN recently, that paints Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth as perhaps the dumbest people on earth, with IQs that barely hit double digits. Yet, ironically, the same critics are now upset that Trump isn't following their advice. For a year, Tulsi's been labeled a Russian pawn, and Pete is just a brawny guy with a camera. Every time this panel assembles, it's a critique that Trump chose poorly, but suddenly these individuals are supposed to be his guides on international policy. This seems rather apparent, but I still need to say it just in case it slipped by unnoticed. Her knock on Trump is for not taking counsel from Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth. Honestly, I can't verify any of it as factual. Nonetheless, what would her opinion be if he was to heed only Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard? Likely, she'd express relief, saying, at last he's listening to them. Clearly, CNN's narrative paints the GOP as a party in disarray, struggling and barely functional. And her reasoning, some Republicans have diverse views on dealing with Israel and Iran. That's the big controversy. The idea of a party that allows earnest discussions without self-destructing seems beyond their understanding. They find it hard to grasp that Trump supporters inherently trust him, especially in his firm stance against Iran obtaining nuclear weapons, a stance he's held for 2 decades. Republican strategies may differ, but decisive leadership and results are still produced. Can the Biden administration boast the same? To clarify, I mean productive outcomes. They had 4 years for a sound foreign policy. What resulted was confusion and inaction. Republicans might debate rather than toe the line, which admittedly seems rare, but ultimately, we take action, a concept that eludes the left. Media persistence in equating Republican discussion with dysfunction is misplaced, as voters are well aware of the truth. Trump's stance on Iran has been unwavering for years. They won't get nukes. Even if we're divided on how to achieve this, Republicans still project strength and clarity, accomplishing proverbial wins. Their arguments inevitably drift leftward, pun intended, without achieving the same, and they know it deep inside. Earlier in the video, I invited you to share your opinions on the Israel-Iran issue. Your insights teach me a lot. Anyway, as we wrap up, the channel aimed for 5K subscribers by month's end, but it seems unlikely now, so I'm encouraging a big final push to close out July strong before I take a break from asking you to like or subscribe. There's still time in July for your support, which I truly value. As always, I'm grateful for you spending part of your day watching this. Your time is precious, and remember, Jesus loves you. Till next time.